Okay, before you can really watch this video and take notes, you need to make sure that you have the Chapter 2 notes that is right here. The Chapter 2 notes, pages 1 through 3. And so if you don't have those, then you can actually click on this link and print them off. If you can't print them off, I don't know, you'll have to figure something out on what you can do, but they are available here. The other thing you need to do is you need to open up basketballcourtdemo.java, and that will look like this. And so you'll need to do this. Now I have some extra names on here, an extra VID, so you don't have to have that. But you'll need to have the notes open and the Java file, because we're going to use that as we start going through the notes. So if you need to pause the video to take care of that, do that. But also make sure that you have done a save as with this Java document, so it is saved in your Chapter 2 folder in JGrasp, so you're ready to work on that and compile it at times. Okay, so hopefully you got all these. You got the notes, the .java or the basketball court demo Java open, and now we can start going through the notes. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through basically the Chapter 2.1 assignment. And so in a sense, but we're going to go through notes that are actually taken from the textbook, in a sense. I mean, partly from the textbook, and so it's kind of synthesizing and taking the most important issues from the textbook and putting them in a form that I'm hoping that will be easy for you to read and easy for you to have a great resource. Excuse me. Okay, so we're going to start taking a look at the notes right now. All the programs that you create should look like this. Alright, so when you start a new document, you basically, especially for an assignment, you need to make sure that you have the header or the heading. And so I noticed that some people, when they submitted 2.1, they did not have the heading. I shouldn't have to ask you for the heading. We've been doing it for an entire chapter, and so you should always have this. The name, the period, this is the name of the assignment, and this is the file that you will be submitting, and then the date. So it should be like this. Don't change the order, don't add things, don't subtract things, do it just like this. The next thing you should have is a blank line, and then if you have any import statements, which we've learned one so far, then you put that import statement here after this blank line. Then you have another blank line, and then you have your class header, and then you have the next line. And this is another thing that you should be doing without me having to say, is you should always have a comment here that explains the purpose of the program or the purpose of the class. And for horizontal space sake, we want a space right here after the symbol. Remember, between a symbol and text, you want a space typically. Just like up here, we have horizontal space. Alright, then you'll have the opening class brace, the main method header, the opening main method header brace, and then you will have the two closing braces down here. Alright, so all of this stuff is going to go into every program. And what's going to change from program to program is going to be the stuff right here. So essentially you could almost copy and paste the stuff that's inside the red when you start a new program. The only thing is, I'm going to talk to you about that in a second, but that is something that you could do to make things go faster. Now, within the opening and closing brace of the main method, in other words, within the main method, what's going to happen is this is where we're going to do our work. This is the main work. This is where the coding is going to go as far as trying to make the program work. And so you're going to have comments, declarations with initializations. You'll have declarations without initializations. Oops, bad spelling. We are going to have assignments. These are things that we're going to talk about today. Print statements. You're going to have blank lines that will separate sections of code. That's vertical space. And there's more to come. We're going to have if statements. We're going to have while statements and loops and things like that. So there's going to be all kinds of things that will be happening inside the main method. And of course, this is the indentation. It's indented one more time within the main method. And this should be something you should know as well as you know where the couch is in your living room. Okay, it should all be very easy. Now, so as we look at this, number one, the general rule for learning how to code is that you need to wean yourself off the dependence on notes, textbook, people, and other resources. So wean yourself off the dependence on your notes. Force yourself to recall concepts. Force yourself to recall the concepts. And then use copy and paste only for things already known by memory. So use copy and paste only for things you know by memory. Until then, type it. So this is the important thing that I really feel is critical to learning, especially those of you who are struggling with the concepts already in Java. And that is, every time you learn a new concept, you are going to have to rely on your notes pretty quickly, or the textbooks. So you're going to, because once you go through it in class, that doesn't mean you're going to remember it. And so you do need to use your notes. But then the next time you face that concept, then you need to see, okay, now how much of that can I apply without looking at my resources? So you try it. And then you look at your notes to see how you did. Maybe you made some mistakes, or you need to add something here, or whatever, but you try. You force yourself to recall. And then the next time you face that concept, you do the same thing. You try to see what you can do. Eventually you can do it without looking at your notes. Now, once you learn a concept, then you can use your copy and paste to make things go faster, because you've already learned it. But copying and pasting things you don't know are going to hinder your learning. And chapter 1 and 2 are critical that you know and understand as many things as possible, because this is going to be, all those concepts are going to be the foundation, and they're going to be used in the rest of the chapters that we go through. Alright, so let's move on. And so we go down here to variable declarations. A variable declaration, you have two types of declarations. You have the declaration with initialization, and it looks like this. It has the data type, the variable name, this equal sign, which we're going to name it something different next time, or in a while, and then the value, and of course the semicolon. And now we've already talked about all of these, and now we're just kind of putting it into Java language here, and hopefully this will all make sense. And we've even written code already like this. So as you'll see, here's an example of a declaration with initialization. We have the data type, we have the variable name, the equal sign, the value, and the semicolon. So what happens when you declare a variable, the compiler reads this and says, and goes into your computer memory and finds one of the cells that are already in there, which we've talked about. You have a bunch of cells in there that are actually numbered. Maybe this one is 1196, I don't know. And then, so it's numbered, but it's not named yet. It's just sitting there waiting. And so what it does is it finds a memory location, it puts the name above it that you declare it to be, so in this case age, and it configures it to handle only the data type that you declare. And so this is going to only take ints, which we've talked about, that's going to be whole numbers. So if you were to try to store a decimal in here, it would reject it, and the compiler would tell you all about it. And so, but since this 15 happens to be an integer, this will work. And so this is what's going on behind the scenes. You don't see this going on, but this is really what's going on inside, literally inside your computer in the hard drive. Alright, so now you can have a declaration without initialization. So you'll see this is just the data type and the variable name. So you can see what's being left off. It goes data type, variable name. It's leaving off this assignment of the value. So you don't have to assign the value at the declaration. You can assign it later on. Okay, so this is a valid declaration. And both of them are. Okay, when you're making a declaration, you are declaring or defining the variables data type and name. When you declare or define a variable in these statements, what you're declaring is, hey, this is the name of this memory location, this is the name of the variable, and this is the type of data that can be stored in it. That's what you're declaring to the compiler. And so to declare a variable means to define a variable. So the textbook, the author in the textbook, uses the word define, and so we are going to use that as well. So declare and define mean the same thing. That's what this is. Here the variable was defined in this line of code. Variable was defined in this line of code. The spelling right here, the spelling and capitalization of the variable name are defined. So that's just to get more specific. Yes, the name is being defined, but what about the name is being defined? Well, how it's spelled. So if you want to take a word and spell it incorrectly, then that's fine. You're declaring however it's going to be spelled. And then you're declaring, okay, this is the capitalization. So what was declared in this variable is that we are declaring that this variable is spelled AGE, and we're also declaring that there are no capitals in it. And so the spelling and capitalization of the variable call must match the variable's declaration. The spelling and capitalization of the variable call must match the variable's declaration. So we're going to go to JGrasp right now. We're going to demonstrate that, and we're going to see then what the error message is when you violate that, okay, in your code. And so at this time, let's go to JGrasp, and we're going to we're going to get rid of this stuff. And so in JGrasp, maybe I need just a second here. Okay, so I made the font a little bit larger, and so here we are. So now what we're going to do is we are going to do our declarations right now. And so here's the code that we talked about, your heading, your import statement. Now we don't need the JOptionPane class in this one, but I just wanted to show how this would look. And so you got your blank line on either side, and then you got your comment and all that. So now we're going to go into the main method, and we're going to make sure that we're tabbed in. And here's a comment line that might be good would be would be declarations. So here we're going to do our declarations. I like doing declarations at the beginning. The author of our textbook doesn't necessarily buy into that completely, but that's the way I was taught at first, and I really like it. I like to be able to see where all my variables are. Most of them are going to be up here in front. And so the first thing, what we did is we said, okay, we need you to go find the dimensions of a high school basketball court. And so what you should have found, and I'll just put it over here, is that we found that it was 84 feet long and it was 50 feet wide. And so variables then, remember, is going to be one of the most important things for you to do is figure out, well, what are going to be the variables that I need in this program? So variables are memory locations or storage locations that are going to store data that you need for the program. And so you always want to look at or not always, but you'll want to look at the purpose up here, because this will help you figure out what pieces of data are necessary. This says this class displays the dimensions of a high school basketball court. Well, so that means you need the data that relates to the dimensions of the high school basketball court. So you need the 84 and you need the 50. And remember, I said in the directions that you need to declare 2 variables. Well, some people declared 3 or 4 variables, and that was completely unnecessary. It wasn't really going to be useful for what the directions told you to do. There's nothing in the directions that indicated that you needed to find the area of the basketball court, but some people did that. So all we needed to do was get the 2 dimensions, stick them in some variables, and then display the dimensions in a print statement. That's all that we needed to do. And so here's the first part. Now we're going to just declare 1 right now because we want to try some things with it. So let's go ahead and we're going to take 84. Now 84, some people gave some interesting data types for this. This is an integer, and so being an integer, we want to put an int, not a double, which is a decimal, or a string, which is a group of characters. So we're going to go int, and now how you name this, we're going to talk about naming later on, but let's just call it length. We don't have to get long here with our names. And then we space is in the equal sign, space 84, and then semicolon, and there is our first declaration. Now remember, this tells the compiler to go into the memory locations literally inside your computer, find a memory location, give it the name length, and stick an 84 in it. Also to configure it to handle ints. Now in our print statement, let's say we want to print the value of length. So let's go in here and go print and go length. Now let's go ahead and put quotation marks around it. Now if you remember, quotation marks indicate a literal string. So let's go ahead and compile this, which should work, and then run it. And so when you run it, you'll see that it's actually printing the name of the variable. But we don't want to print the name of the variable. We want to print the value of the variable. This is what we call a variable call. This is now where we are actually using the variable. Here's where we declared it and assigned it, and now we're going to use it. And we've discussed this previously. We demonstrated, we walked through it, and this is what's going on. So we said in our notes, ooh, that was weird. So we said in our notes that the spelling and capitalization of the variable call, which is what we're dealing with now, must match the variable declaration. So what is this doing, for crying out loud? Ooh, this is not good. Oh, I can't do that. Here we go. Alright, so what we want to do then is let's test that out. So let's mess with the capitalization. Well, this says it starts with a lowercase. Well, let's mess with it. Let's make the call be a capital. So go ahead and capitalize length, clear your compile messages, and then compile it and run it. Okay, so it gives you an error that says cannot find symbol. Well, why not? It's looking for length with a capital L. It's case sensitive. But all it finds is a variable location or a memory location that has the name length with a lowercase l. So it can't find the symbol. Okay, let's go ahead and let's mess with the spelling of it. Let's spell length in this variable call AI. There, that makes sense. Length, and take the L, make it lowercase again, and then compile it. And now, because the spellings don't match, then since this spelling doesn't match this spelling, then again the compiler can't find the symbol because it's looking for LAINGTH and it doesn't find it. And so on our notes, then the error message is cannot find symbol. The error message then is cannot find symbol. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to create another video for the rest of today. So go ahead and close this video and open the next one.